welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now, here's the show. Before I start today's show, I just want to remind you that my Daily Habits for Holistic Health course, the group online 4-week course, is starting October 27, 2018. Now, if you're listening to this recording, this podcast episode after that date, don't worry. I do provide this course privately throughout the year. But a couple of times a year, I like to take a group through it so that we can support each other, hold each other accountable as we go through this course, implementing a foundation of daily self-care practices which keeps our body and mind in balance. And these self-care practices, or dinacharya as Ayurveda calls them, are simple, effective tools, and they'll become like brushing your teeth daily. It'll just be something that will slot into your life. But the purpose of them is to keep a foundation of holistic health, to keep a good, strong digestive fire, a calm nervous system, a good elimination, and a clear mind. And when you have this foundation of daily self-care practices, and you're keeping your body and mind in balance, it means that sickness or illness or dis-ease in the body can't take hold because you have these strong foundations. And it also means that you can live an 80-20 lifestyle, which is what I believe in. 80% of the time, your day-to-day routine consists of these really good daily self-care practices to keep you in balance. And then 20% of the time, you have a night out, you have a weekend away, vacation. And your body can handle those times when you go out of your normal routine, when you indulge a little, because you've built up such a strong foundation of health and well-being. And you have your doshas and your body in balance, your mind in balance, that when you go out and splurge a little, the body can handle it. It can be a little bit more flexible. And what will happen is you'll start, when your weekend is over or when your holiday is over, you'll start to crave those routines because you know how good it feels to have these simple daily self-care practices in place. You know how it feels when your body's running efficiently, when your mind is clear, and you'll crave that routine. So you'll be looking forward to get back into it after that 20% indulgence is finished. And this is how you can maintain a good balanced lifestyle without feeling deprived, living that 80-20 lifestyle. But the important thing is to have this foundation of daily self-care practices in place. So if you would like to understand more about these simple self-care practices from Ayurveda, please join us on this Daily Habits for Holistic Health course. Like I said, it's a 4-week online course. You can either do it in the group starting October 27th or do it privately, and I'll support you along the way. These tools really are the key for implementing a foundation of health and well-being. So just click on the link in the show notes to take you over to my website with all the details and to register, or you can go directly to my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com/daily habits course. I hope you can join us. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda. Today I have John Immel from Joyful Belly back with me. Hi, John.
Hi, how are you, Colette?
I'm doing great, and thank you again for joining us. John is a regular on the show, and it's going to be all about beets and sesame seeds today. So I'm looking forward to what John has to tell us about these two favorites of mine. So John, which one would you like to start with today?
Well, let's start with sesame seeds.
Great. I'll let you go because I know you have a wealth of information, and I will pop in with questions, I'm sure, but go right ahead.
Sounds great. Sounds great. It's great to be here on the podcast. Well, sesame is the ingredient of the day here in the Northern Hemisphere because it's such a great strengthening and nourishing tonic. So if you fear the onslaught of winter and the bone-chilling drop in temperatures, then you're going to want to listen and hear about sesame seeds, sesame oil, tahini, any one of the number of varieties. There's that saying, open sesame, right? The magician that says open sesame. And that right there, whenever I hear sayings and things like that, I know that cultures somewhere around the world had a special relationship with a particular food, or they used it in some really important way that it became part of their folklore and medicine. So open sesame was the secret password in the medieval Arabic adventure tale Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, and opened to this cave that was rich with treasures. And really, sesame seed is a food that is rich with treasures. Sesame is the secret ingredient in a number of different recipes from around the world. Just think about mole sauces in Mexico to halvas and the use of tahini in the Middle East. To hummus, it appears in hummus.
That's right. Yeah.
It is a seed on bagels when you toast the bagels, and in New York City they put the sesame seeds on them, and so all over the world people are putting this nutty, tasty, oily, and rich seed on their foods. Yeah, so the Romans ate the sesame seeds for valor in battle. That you would mix it with honey, and that was used to strengthen the soldiers. And that really testifies to sesame's ability to as a muscle tonic, really, and it strengthens your bones. Bones, muscles, even willpower. It's considered to be a blood builder in Ayurveda, and its warming qualities help to increase body heat.
Right. So it is considered warming, and would you say pungent?
There may be some mild pungency there. There's even some mild bitterness there. And as with many seeds, in fact, I noticed this with a lot of seeds, is that there's this nourishing and rich component, and it's paired with a bit of warmth, some kind of, it stokes the fire. I had a client once who was meditating in the Himalayas for a number of years, and she only drank milk, and her guru had told her to leave the cave and go out into the world and teach people about spiritual matters. And so, and part of this was she had to start eating other things than milk. And one of the first things she ate was an almond seed. And she said she could feel it for 5 days in her system, sparking and increasing her metabolism. Oh my goodness. And so nuts have this amazing energy source. But what's great about them is that they also boost metabolism, whereas most heavy foods, like if you have a piece of bread, it's also heavy, but it doesn't ignite metabolism. In fact, it depresses metabolism. And so nuts are this great way to rev up the engine and feed the engine at the same time. Wow,
great. Yeah, and because I hear a lot of people when you talk about tahini or with the sesame and honey being it provides strength. And I do hear sometimes have clients where they love like tahini and honey together.
Yeah. And honey, like I said, that was what the Romans did. Yeah. They would mix sesame seeds with honey for valor in battle. Now, honey is also very heating. Right. So if you're mixing those two ingredients together, That's appropriate for the fall as the temperature's dropping, because the warmth of those and the energy is just exactly what you need to keep yourself strong as temperatures drop. I think of sesame seeds as something I started introducing as early as mid-September, and I just keep eating them throughout the fall.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it is funny because most of the clients I speak to who love that mixture of tahini and honey tend to be high vata constitutions. So there's a coolness to the system and there's an irregular digestive fire. So that will be the perfect snack. And it's funny how they naturally like that and their body craves it. Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah, there's something about Ayurveda that's helping people realize what they actually wanted.
Right, exactly, exactly. And knowing that, this is serving me rather than imbalancing me. Wonderful. Yeah. And so you said there's a mix of pungent and bitter and a little bit of sweet as well?
Well, I would say that sweet taste is the foremost taste. We have to remember that sweet taste in Ayurveda is not about sugariness, right? And when we say sweet taste in English, usually we're referring to how much sugar there is in it. But in Ayurveda, sweet means almost like nourishing, right? And so when I say sweet taste, I say it's almost like nourishing taste, and I think that's what really comes to the forefront with all the oil and hardiness, the way sesame seed just really is an ojas building food. We're going to be thinking sweet taste first, maybe some salty even with its mineral content, and then pungent and bitter are just a little hint there, just that little hint of heat. We're not talking cayenne pepper with a sesame seed. It's just a little warmth with it. Right.
And it does have a lot of minerals like copper, iron, magnesium, right?
Yeah. And I believe very high in calcium as well.
Yeah. So tell us then about how you like to use the sesame seeds. You said that you like to introduce them in September. And myself, I feel the same. I feel with my Pitta constitution, they're a little bit heating in summer. But this time of the year, I'm looking to add them more to foods. So how do you include them in your diet?
As soon as you feel that the pitta, the heat of the summer is gone, which can take a little bit of time, even as the temperature drops in the beginning, there's still a lot of pitta in the system. But as soon as that you feel your system really cooling down, or you're feeling a little more cool to your core, that's when you can start having those sesame seeds. And one of my favorite ways to eat sesame seeds is mixed with a little bit of sweet, a little bit of sugar, ginger, and ghee. And I just take the sesame seeds and I mix them with a little bit of sweet, a little bit of, as you said before, you were mixing it with some honey, and then ginger and ghee. So what is that going to do? The ghee is going to increase. Ghee is clarified butter, right? It's butter that's been boiled and the milk solids are removed, leaving a more pure, easily digestible substance than butter. So the ghee is going to increase that oiliness of the sesame seed, making it a little bit more hearty even. And then the sugar is there for taste, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of sweet, that's enjoyable. And then the ginger in this recipe is going to increase the heat. Whenever you're making a heavy, rich tonic, like this, and this is true for all of our Ayurvedic tonics, we're always going to put some digestives with it. In this case, a digestive spice, so that we counteract the heaviness. The more heaviness there is, the more stimulant you need. That's almost like a rule of thumb that you can apply in your kitchen anytime you're having something heavy, whether it's a slice of cheesecake for dessert at a party. You can always sprinkle a little cinnamon on top of it, and that's going to do the same thing that ginger's doing here for our tonic rich foods, little stimulant. And these can be made into little balls, and you'll take those balls and just, you could serve them. You could put a nice big almond seed in the center of it when you're done with the ball, just for decoration, and serve it at a party or among friends. A little, as the holidays start to approach, those kinds of treats can be really fun, very easy to make.
Great. And would your kids eat them now? If you wanted to kind of stimulate the children's digestive fire, say in fall, and especially we were just talking beforehand about, how they go back to school and they're getting there's lots of germs around as the kids are mixing in the change of season as well this time of year. Would your children eat them? Would they be a good stimulant for their digestive fire?
Oh yeah. They would love these if you're and this is exactly what should be given to the kids, especially if your child is a little more on the thin side or may get easily cold. One of my kids is like that. She's my 10-year-old. She is quite thin, healthfully thin. Nothing wrong there, but she gets cold a little bit easily, and so this would be I may even give her one of these for breakfast in the morning.
Right.
But yeah, kids love little treats like this.
Yeah, and there is a great way to get that ginger into their system as well, to stimulate their digestive fire this time of year. And it could be a good even after school snack, right? Before they have their, if they're not ready for dinner yet or whatever, that they could have these little snacks. And then maybe you could sneak some other little seeds in there. Along the way. Yeah. We're always trying to, so I'm talking to parents, I'm like, okay, how can we get these little things into their food sometimes without them knowing? So do you grind the sesame seeds? Is it the same like with flax seeds when they're whole? They're not really as beneficial as when they're ground. They don't have the same elimination benefits. Is it the same with sesame seeds? Should we grind them beforehand?
Well, I definitely chew them when I eat them. In this recipe, I keep them whole just because I like the texture that way.
Right.
And I grind them with my mouth instead of in the blender.
Right.
Ground sesame seeds is tahini, basically. And so, and this recipe, you could make it with tahini. If I was going to make this recipe with tahini, I'd probably remove the ghee and I would leave the ginger and the raw sugar. And then since it is ground up at that point, I might even increase the amount of ginger or put in another spice like cardamom. There's a whole sesame seed treats are very popular from Middle East all the way to India, and so there's lots of different varieties that you can research and check out, fun ways to enjoy tahini.
Yeah, they're so delicious. I love those these little balls with the sesame seeds, and like you said, mixing in different types. Is the ginger you use here, is that ground ginger? Is that dry ginger or fresh?
I used ground.
Okay.
Yeah, I use ground.
Okay. So perhaps if it was somebody still right now and we're going to add this, folks, we're going to add this recipe. It's from the Joyful Belly site, so we'll add it into the show notes. So be sure to check it out because I want you guys to try it and then tell me how you like them and how it feels in your body. But like you just said, John, maybe at the end of summer here, we're still hot here, for example, in France. Somebody who is a high pitta could, like you said, substitute the dry ginger, which can be a little bit heating, with cardamom at this time.
Yeah.
Or a little bit of cinnamon. If like your daughter, they have cold fingers and toes, the cinnamon to get that blood circulating around the body. Okay, great. So so the thing is to experiment, and as Ayurveda always says, there's no one size fits all. So experiment and really, like John is introducing us to here in these regular episodes, is notice the effect it has on your body. Have that awareness. And what did you say, John, in the previous episode? Set your alarm clock. You said set a timer or something.
Yeah.
Afterwards, isn't that what you recommend? Like 50 or maybe 20, 30 minutes after you eat something, and just notice how it affects your body. How are you feeling? Are you feeling warm after it? How does it feel in your digestion? Was that correct?
Yeah.
You said about 30
yes,
minutes?
Absolutely. 15 minutes will really help you understand, tune in to how well you're digesting the food, and then its medicinal effects on your body, that you start to get that feedback loop.
Right.
And you know what works for your body and what doesn't.
Exactly. And you do this for a period of time, and then it becomes second nature, and you become more sensitive to it, right? The timer won't be a lifetime thing. It'll just be for a period of time until it becomes a habit where you start checking in post meal how you're feeling. So I think that's a great tip. So tell us, is there more interesting information you have there? I kind of interrupted you
about sesame seeds.
Yes, I know. I know you're very excited.
Of course, I
could
keep going. But one thing I'll mention about sesame is that sesame oil is considered to be the number one or preferred oil in Ayurveda.
That's right.
And the sesame oil has been used for thousands of years. It's really amazing how long our history of cultivation of sesame seeds and use of sesame seeds has been. So the oil has those warming properties. And what we do with it in Ayurveda is a technique called abhyanga, which is massaging your entire body with the oil, and really everywhere. You just lather the oil over your entire body. And what does this do? Well, one, your skin absorbs some of these oils, and it's a nourishing tonic. Two, the oils coat your skin, and that makes it harder for water to evaporate off your skin. Now, think about how your body keeps cool in summer. It keeps cool with sweat, and that sweat evaporates off your skin, cooling it. Well, if you put a layer of oil over your entire skin, then water stops evaporating. I mean, even when you're not sweating, there's a little bit of water evaporating off your skin, and that gives your skin a cool feeling, even in the fall, which you don't want. Right. What we want to do is seal the skin with oil, and that's going to help retain a lot of heat. So if a person gets easily cold in the winter, you can put on some sweaters. That's great. I recommend that. But also put on some oil. Get that. Do that abhyanga in the morning. And then what you do is you shower off the oils. You don't soap your skin after that, but you just rub it with a towel after you get out of the shower. Make it an old towel that you can throw away, because after about a month and a half of that, you're going to want to toss that towel in the trash. And it's going to keep you warm in the beginning part of fall, when your body's scrambling to build up that layer of winter fat that's going to protect you for the rest of the year. Right,
exactly. And so you leave the oil on for about 15-20 minutes, leave it soak in, and then shower off
if you can.
The excess. Yes, yeah.
If you can. I know people's morning routines get pretty long, but that's what Ayurveda says, 15-20 minutes.
Right.
But you'll notice even 5 minutes is going to help you, but if you can, the full 15 or 20 minutes is the best.
Right. And then if a person doesn't have it in the morning, it could be nice to add to their nightly routine, right? Especially if it's a person who has trouble relaxing in the evening, and maybe they're a more high vata constitution, especially this time of year. There may be more mind spinning or anxiety. It could
Absolutely.
Be, a nice soothing routine in the evening to calm the body and mind. Okay, great. And of course, you recommend the organic untoasted sesame oil, right, for the body.
Yeah.
So, what is the function of toasting besides from taste? Is there any other benefit to toasting it? Does it bring out more oils in the food?
Well, toasting or roasting a food does several things to it. It creates in the sort of burning process. It creates a lot of complex flavors. I think that's why a lot of chefs do that.
Yeah.
It also increases the heat a bit, but it also increases the unpredictability of the food. When you cook it to the point of roasting, there's a lot of Maillard reactions, which is more unpredictable molecules and compounds on the surface. And that's why, like in barbecue, you get all these really tasty sort of bits on the edge of the roast that you're in your barbecue, and that's the sort of unpredictable but tasty molecular changes that are going on. So those can be a little bit more cancerous, but we're really splitting hairs here. In my kitchen, I like to do the roasting. It tastes better, but since you're asking and we're in a health sort of medicinal context, I wanted to just mention that.
Right, and I suppose it would be considered anytime you're charring or taking food, toasting it or roasting it to that point where it's almost burning, that I guess it's more rajasic, right?
Yeah, it's a little more rajasic. I mean, you're increasing the pungency and a little bit of the bitterness with the roasting. And so it is going to be a hotter food when you're done. If you want to increase the heat of sesames, then you roast them slightly.
Okay.
And I know in Chinese medicine, this is the time of year to start roasting things.
Oh, I love roasting.
For that reason.
I will roast anything this time of year. It's great.
Yeah. I know, it so just feels good just thinking about it.
Right? I love this change of seasons. It's so nice. So before we move on, is there anything else you want to add for sesame seeds?
Yeah, well, you can use it for oil pulling.
Oh, yeah.
And Ayurveda uses it to clean the teeth too. You chew a tablespoon of sesame seeds in the morning to clean the teeth. So all of that, there's, as you see, there's just many uses, not just in Ayurveda, but all over the world for sesame. And everyone, should experiment with sesame. Now, now I've noticed with myself, I have a slight allergy to sesame, and some of these heating foods will provoke allergies for some people. So be on the lookout for that too. It's very interesting that this little innocuous seed could provoke a slight allergy. So I've had to, for myself, I've had to cut back on it, even though my kids and my wife enjoy it.
And what type of allergy? Is it sinus related?
No, just in the gut. If you can feel a little bit of rawness in my gut,
interesting.
No hives, no terrible kinds of things that are really going on there. Just a little bit extra irritation there that I just have to watch out for.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Thank you for all that information. It's fantastic. And now for the next food we're going to discuss today is beets, or beetroot as we call it here in Europe.
Yes.
Yeah, people get confused here when I say beets. I forget. Beetroot.
Okay, so beets is... do people think of the greens over there when we say beets, or is it just beets not even a thing?
Beets is not a thing. It's like,
that's not even a thing.
No,
okay, beetroot.
No.
I'm going to try to say beetroot.
Oh no, it's fine because our audience is all over, so we can say beets, and everyone will now know going forward we're talking about beetroot.
All right, sounds good. Well, switch to the southern hemisphere here. Temperatures are increasing in the southern hemisphere, and that means we've got to release fats instead of increase them.
Right.
We're trying to purge fats out of the system as the temperature rises. And we've probably been noticing the first few warm spells if we live in the southern hemisphere. Maybe it's not hot yet. Maybe the blood hasn't quite returned to your fingers as you're walking outside, but there should be definite signs of the oncoming warmth, the dampness in the atmosphere, the heavier, wetter snows of late winter, and really we're coming up close to. It's kind of equivalent to April already. So yeah, actually we may be. I'm sitting here thinking our March, but it's really our April is equivalent to October. So it's going to be, there will be those days where the heat is going into the fingertips, actually. As soon as you get a very hot day in spring, you may notice a slight puffiness to the hands, even to the face, as your body is pushing more blood into the skin. And so as that happens, it's almost as if as the sap is running in the trees, so it's starting to run in your extremities as well.
Oh, interesting. So winter, the heat is kept more internally, and then it's springtime, it's going out to the extremities. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. This is when skin starts to look fresh and new again, because the lack of blood flow in the skin has made the skin appear pale and a bit gray for most of the winter. And now in those hot days, the skin will be flush with blood, and you'll look in the mirror and be like, "Oh, I'm young again. I look,
the
look
rosy
10 years
cheeks.
younger. This is great. The cheeks are rosy." Exactly.
Right. So is it widening the blood vessels? Is that what's happening instead of constricting it?
Yeah. Okay. Literally, capillary beds are dilated in the. But even throughout the arms and the legs, the larger vessels would be a bit more dilated as well. And so there's just some ample blood flow through the whole system.
Great.
Yeah. So then that brings us to this whole concept of flushing and purging and cleansing, which is most important in the spring. And beets are a great way to accomplish that throughout the spring. And I would even say that for April, it's the tail end of that. That almost beets are sort of, you're going to start eating them in February, maybe mid-April through mid-April. The beets are really on the forefront, and then they start receding as it gets warmer and warmer.
Right. And can I interrupt you there just to ask you a question? Yeah. So they're also in season right now in the northern hemisphere, in autumn, winter, right? As well as spring in the southern.
You can do it. You can eat. As far as the growing and cultivation, I don't have that. No, I don't know that. What when they turn ripe here?
Yeah, in the northern
hemisphere. Do they turn ripe this time of year?
Yeah, in autumn, winter, which is great because it goes. It's great for everyone this time of year, and it's interesting because now, of course, what you're about to go into now is talking about cleansing. So when we do our Ayurvedic regular seasonal cleanses at the transitions of the seasons, the beets are a wonderful addition to that cleanse. So I'll let you go forward now and talk about the cleansing effect of them. Thanks.
Yeah, well, it's a root, right? Beets are a root. And so roots are a little bit hardier. Mm-hmm. And one of the unique and wonderful things about beets is that they're a hardy cleanser. Now, that almost sounds like a contradiction. Mm-hmm. Most of your cleansers are very depleting. Mm. And what's wonderful about beets is that it's not depleting. In fact, beets are so sweet that half of the world's table sugar is made from beets.
Wow!
So what we're looking at here is really a nourishing food that happens to be a cleanser,
right?
As opposed to something like aloe vera. Think about aloe vera. No one's going to. There's no equivalent of like Ukrainian borscht with aloe vera, right? Even the word borscht, you feel like this hooky Ukrainian, mountain man, coming down out of the hills for a hot borscht,
Right.
And you can't say that with aloe vera. You take some things of aloe vera and you feel like you could blow away with the wind. It's just such a cleansing, depleting food. So how about that? Just take a moment to recognize the incredible creativity, the incredible creativity in nature that we have a food that's a hearty cleanser,
Yeah, it's amazing. And I remember growing up seeing like truckloads in Ireland of beets because I guess, the beets grow in like muddy, damp soil, and with all the rain in Ireland, it's probably the perfect place for them to grow.
Oh, wow.
So you would just see truckloads of beets. So it's so interesting that they go on and you say, how much of the world's refined sugar?
Half of the world's refined table sugar is made from beets.
Incredible. But we know refined sugar is not good for us, right? But the sugar in beets is good for us, right? Because it supports our blood sugar levels. It's
good for the people that it's good for, right? There's probably some individuals where it's a little too sweet, but the fact that beets are cleansing is a real it really balances them out. So you have this sweet, which is nourishing, and now maybe that amount of sweet would be problematic if it was in something like bread.
Yeah.
But because it's paired with a cleanser, it's gonna turn out to not be as problematic. Just in general, it's a little more of a balancing food.
Okay, great.
Now, beets are a cleanser through several pathways. First, it's a cholagogue. And that this is a word that everybody who is into complementary medicine, alternative health should really just know very well. Cholagogue means that it causes the liver to both produce and purge bile, and also the gallbladder to purge bile. So your gallbladder stores bile that's made from the liver, and the liver makes it and also releases it into the bile duct system. And then that bile goes out into the small intestine where it emulsifies and breaks up fats. It's essential to know about bile because bile is going to help you with fat digestion and metabolism. Bile is a great laxative, but the most important thing is that bile is a way of pulling heat and toxins and even cholesterol out of the blood.
Right.
A lot of your cholesterol-reducing foods are foods that stimulate the release of bile, and then those same foods absorb bile, and then because bile is a laxative, you poop it out, and you're getting basically those toxins out of your body. And I'm thinking beans as I say that, because beans provoke the production of bile, and then they absorb a lot of the bile, and then you poop them out because they're such a great stool bulk agent.
Right.
And beets are going to be in this class as well, that they're going to help your body get rid of the toxins in your blood. And you're going to feel, if you're a pitta person, or if you're a person who overdid the partying over the holidays, or whatever, if you've got toxins to release in the spring, you're going to feel a little bit irritated. When those hot days come in April, you're going to feel like fighting with your spouse over something small, because that's what happens when the heat returns. Yeah, in fact, I remember last April walking down the road, a nice, romantic evening with my wife, watching the spring flowers and the trees, and there were just like we saw 3 or 4 couples fighting in our hour-long walk, and we were like, what is going on? There must be something in the air. Well, there is something in the air. Right. It's hot.
Yeah.
And people are a little toxic, and their body starts releasing those toxins, and they get irritable. So don't let a beautiful spring day ruin your marriage.
Yeah.
Have some beets.
Got beets, right?
Got beets. Yeah, exactly.
Because poor bile flow is a real problem nowadays.
Yeah. It is. The gallbladder gets congested with these heavy, rich diets that we have.
Right, and the gallbladder removal operations, I guess, are one of the highest operations in the U.S. in particular. So making sure that your bile is flowing well, because if the bile flow is poor, it can lead, like you said, to poor fat metabolism, poor liver detox, right?
Or liver detox,
Weak
and
stomach.
gallstones, and we just want to keep everything flowing in the body. We don't want stagnation. Anywhere we find it, we want to keep it moving along.
Right.
And so your sours, in general, and then these wonderful, more satisfying cleansing foods like beets, or your depleting ones like aloe vera. There's I mentioned aloe vera in a kind of joking way earlier, but it's one of my favorite ways favorite ingredients I recommend often to my clients for cleansing.
Yes.
So so it's just got different properties than the beets.
Right, exactly. It's definitely more bitter.
Yeah, more bitter, more depleting.
Right. Okay.
That's exactly what some kapha people need.
Yes.
So it's a great thing.
Yes.
So beets are a cholagogue, and again, it stimulates the production and release of bile. And that bile is slightly irritating to the intestines, not in a bad way, but it has a laxative effect, and softens the stools. And you'll see the stools will come out a little bit red. You're not bleeding.
Don't freak out.
That's just the beet color. Don't freak out.
Yeah.
That's
Even
not
the urine will come out so red if you're eating a lot of beets.
Yeah. And it combines the sweet with the cleansing. That makes it a great liver tonic. Some people, you always hear, it's almost become a health fad, cleanse your liver, right?
Right.
But livers also need tonification. And anytime you hear the word cleanse a lot, be thinking in the back of your head, do I also need to tonify? Do I also need to strengthen and nourish?
Rejuvenate. Right? That's why in Ayurveda we have this rejuvenating week at the end of cleansing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of times an organ needs to be cleansed because it's too weak to cleanse itself. And then you're not going to give it a strong cleanse because that's going to hurt the organ. That's going to weaken it. Cleanses are always depleting, weakening, but we also want to think, how can I strengthen this organ? So the liver is a perfect example of that.
Right.
If your liver is, if you have a Vata constitution and you're seeing signs you need to liver cleanse, what you want is really 80% tonification, 20% cleanse, and beet is your solution for that. Yeah. Because of all that sweetness there, it's going to be a very mild, gentle cleanse. Now, I'm Vata enough that I can overdo beets.
Okay.
And so what do I do then if I'm going to be cleansing with beets and it seems like it's just a little much for my system? I'm going to take a root vegetable roast. I'm going to put some potatoes, sweet potatoes, and beets. Now, maybe 1/3 beets, and that may be just enough to get those nice, more bulky, cleansing type stools.
Right.
But without the depletion of a straight up cleanse.
Okay, so you're saying for your Vata constitution, too much beets is too depleting for you.
Absolutely. If I do it, if I'm doing beets for like 3 days in a row or something, I'll start to feel it.
Right.
I have a single beet meal. That has never been a problem for me.
Okay.
But after about 3 days, and now naturally, since I know that, I just don't eat beets for 3 days anymore.
Right,
but I could, if I was going to do a longer cleanse, I would just be pairing it with some other root vegetables that are a little bit more on the nourishing side, so that I'm getting that 80-20 rule for Vata cleansing.
Right. Excellent. Yeah. So you're getting, like with the sweet potato and the beets, mixing those together, it's a great way because the sweet potato is very nourishing and very sattvic.
Yep.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Sweet potatoes are nothing like potatoes. Potatoes are heavy, and sweet potatoes are light. And so I'm just going to be mixing and matching them according to constitution. How much of that heavy white potato, and then how much of the light sweet potato, and how much of that cleansing beet. I may throw a parsnip in there if I want a little more pungency and heat in my root vegetable. Then I'm going to be thinking how much salt, how much olive oil, how much black pepper, or other spices and other things. And then when I'm serving myself a root vegetable roast, we're talking about roast. It's an herb formula.
Yes.
The other people aren't thinking of it as an herb formula, but I'm thinking of it as an herb formula. I'm thinking this is going to be the tastiest herb formula. I'm going to, what a great way to get my herbs in a delicious root vegetable roast.
It's great. And this is what we want. This is why we're doing these episodes, because we want you to start hearing this and then thinking of your food as medicine. Like, I love to roast sweet potatoes and beetroot, and then put a little drizzle a little tahini on top of it afterwards.
Delicious.
Oh my goodness. Now I'm going to have to do that this week. I got to get some beets at the market.
I know, run to the store.
Right? You're making me hungry. So great. So yes, definitely just being aware, as we give advice here, be conscious of your constitution. And like John said, if you're Vata, you may not want to eat beets, 3-4 days in a row. It could be too depleting, but always listen to your body, because you're the best judge.
Yes. Now, beets are also a blood cleanser. Now, so we were talking about the bile components detoxifying the blood, and that's one way that beets cleanse the blood. But beets are also high in bioflavonoids, and that is going to stimulate the liver to detox the blood. Your body, basically, in trying to get rid of the bioflavonoids, ends up revving up your liver detox cycles. So we're looking at beets as an alterative also. Alterative means it's a blood cleanser. So alterative, liver tonic, liver cleanser, and a cholagogue and a bile-based laxative, and in addition to being a stool bulk agent. So we got all these nice properties packaged up in the single vegetable there. Right.
And isn't it true that anything that's particularly red, like beetroot or pomegranates, that they're good for the blood?
Yeah, that's the beta carotene. There's red, purple, orange, even yellow is a sign of beta carotene, and the beta carotene changes color depending on the pH of the vegetable. So we're looking at the same chemical with just a slight variation, and that based upon pH. And all those beta carotene rich foods like carrots, sweet potatoes, beets, purple cabbage, we can just go down the list. Blueberries, cranberries, and all your red and purple berries, right? They're all going to have beta carotene in them. And that benefits the eyes. They're liver tonifying, a little bit of a liver stimulant as well, and they all have those blood. I'm not going to say blood cleansing with it. That would be too strong. But I'll say they influence the blood, or they have an affinity for the red part of the blood called Rakta in Ayurveda.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you. I want to ask you about beet leaves, too.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was the next thing I was going to mention about them.
Great.
So I think we're right on the same wavelength here, right?
Yeah.
Despite being continents apart here.
We're in sync.
We're in sync, exactly. Ayurveda is syncing us.
There you go.
So beets are in the amaranth family.
Mm-hmm.
Just to mention that when you have amaranth, you're having something that's in the same family as the beet family.
So amaranth is the grain.
Is the grain?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I don't know if the grains of beets are harvested and eaten at all, but probably they can be. I have to check into that.
I don't know,
but they're in the amaranth family. Beets are actually, they're native to the south of Europe. That's where they originally came from.
Mm-hmm.
So beet greens are great. And, you can just use them as a pot herb. So you could buy the whole beet with the root.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to cook beet greens in general. And in fact, for that matter, yes, you can juice a beet.
Yeah.
You can juice the root. Yes, you can juice the leaves, but I'm not really that into it because they're high in oxalic acid, which is irritating to the kidney. So, I may have as a fun thing here and there, or even as a cleansing thing here and there, I may have a cup of raw beet juice. Or not a whole cup, but I would juice a raw beet or raw beet greens occasionally. But it's not something I'm going to do every day. And I get clients all the time who are like, oh yeah, every day I start my morning with raw beet juice. And I'm just thinking, by the time they hit 50, their kidneys are going to be destroyed. So
yeah, it's a lot of work to process it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So same thing with beet greens is you just want to cook them a little bit, steam them, even if you're steaming them for 30 seconds so that they're nice and fresh and still have lots of that prana in them. They're not going to be irritating to your kidneys.
Right. Okay. Great tip. Now let's talk about cooking beets because they take a long time.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, they do. Yeah. Yeah, so I tend to, you can roast beets a little bit more quickly than, or saute them a little more quickly. But if I'm cooking beets in a soup, I notice that they really need about 3 hours to cook properly in a soup.
Right, and that's if you're even in chunks.
Whether you're in chunks or even if you puree it. You think if you puree the beet that it would cook faster. It doesn't.
Okay.
So I'll chop up beets in cubes. I'll sometimes puree it, and I love pureed beet soups. In fact,
so good.
One of my favorite recipes with, and I didn't pick it for this call just because it's more of like a fall preparation than a spring one for beets, but is a pureed beet soup with some fennel. Some coconut oil, and you just let it sit. You maybe even some cloves instead of the fennel. Either one of those spices is great there, and some ginger in it. Actually, ginger, fennel, coconut oil, and pureed beets, and you just cook it for 3 hours.
Wow! And
at the end, you get this very sweet. And it's my Vada talking here, right? You get this very sweet, lovely soup, but it takes that long before it's really soft. Otherwise, it doesn't really quite melt, and you get these chunks of the beets that just aren't quite soft yet, and that's going to be very difficult to digest for Vada.
Great, and with beets, of course, obviously recommend if you can to get them organic. And then if you're organic, you just need to wash them and you don't even need to peel them, right? Just cut off the root.
Yeah. If they're organic, you can just cook them. Especially if you don't like peeling, the skins will just fall right off after you cook them anyway.
Right.
So if you're wanting to, just because something has to cook for 3 hours doesn't mean it's laborious. You're just throwing them in the crock pot or in a nice big pot in your stove, and then go to work. Stop home for lunch and have your beet soup, or however way you work that in. I'm not hovering over the stove for 3 hours.
Exactly. You can just let it do its thing. Wonderful. And just going back, what I think about the beet leaves. So the beet leaves, are they pitta provoking if if it's raw, but not if they're cooked. Is that correct?
They're still going to be pitta provoking
Okay.
even when they're cooked. And thanks for bringing us back to that topic. There's just a little bit of heat in the beet greens.
Okay.
Again, being a pitta vata myself, I'm not into beet greens personally for me. But a kapha person who has that bit of stronger kidney and that hardiness, they can enjoy beet greens without any problems, and they should. It's a little bit more of you'll notice that beet greens will be a bit of a stronger laxative effect too. Just with that,
right. And they're said to cure kidney stones, so they have that much of an effect that they break down things, which is why they're probably good for kapha, because they're breaking down that stagnation in the body.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, and of course, they're great for the skin, right? You can even use. There are some people who recommend putting some beet juice as blusher on your cheeks.
Oh, really?
A natural blusher, yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, I know that they stain everything. I have to wear a cooking apron when I'm making them, and even my hands. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Absolutely. No, they're wonderful. Your recipe then that you're suggesting for people to try.
Yes. So in the spring, one of the healthiest ways to enjoy beets and really accentuating the cleansing effect of beets is as pickled beets.
Okay.
So in pickling the beet, you're introducing the sour quality. Now, sour taste is a cleansing taste. Mm-hmm. Sour taste purges all exocrine glands in the body, meaning it's going to take your gallbladder and give it a good squeeze. It's going to flush out. It's just basically the taste of flushing things out.
Right.
So beets, pickled beets, you can chop them up into chunks, pour some apple cider vinegar over them. If you want, you can throw in some cloves, a little bit of salt in there too, and let them sit for a week, maybe. Okay. And then, I make a brine with it. So I'll put maybe even a whole teaspoon of salt. So if you have your mason jar and you're chopping up those beets, you can put in some cloves, a teaspoon of salt, 1.5 cups of vinegar. If you want, you can throw some garlic cloves in there, actually. Okay. And that will also increase the cleansing effect. That will
get everything moving.
Yeah, but you're not going to do that in April because things are already moving in April. Right, you want to do those. Now, in April, I do tend to have a little bit of raw garlic, raw onion, just once or twice. I notice it every year in April when just to help push the blood out. You can do that once or twice. I actually go out into the yard and pick some wild onions and just eat one or two, which they're popping up in April around here. So you're in October for Southern Hemisphere, and I just have munch on one or two of those. They're strong diaphoretic, which really assists the body in opening up the pores and the blood vessels. Wonderful. But otherwise, you're playing with fire, literally, if you're eating too many raw garlic cloves late in the season, especially as you move into November in the Southern Hemisphere or May in the Northern Hemisphere, you're going to be playing with fire by having raw garlic at that time. Right. Exactly. So pickle the beets. If depending on the heat and your local climate, with garlic cloves or without. Okay. And so the pickled beets you recommend for everybody, in the Southern Hemisphere, or would you say for pittas, would they maybe try that beet soup you talked about? I would say for pitta, tone it down. You could tone it down a little bit I would say it's not so much dependent on dosha there. For pitta, I would take out the raw garlic cloves, and even the cloves that I mentioned as a spice for this. But really, you're going to change it depending on your local climate. If you're still a little bit cool, if you're more northern Europe and things are a little cool. Northern Europe is Northern Hemisphere. If you're you're far south this time of year, and it's still a little bit cool, then you're going to not add the cloves or any heat to this,
Right.
and you may even go as far as as not pickling them at all and just cooking them,
Right.
or the beet puree.
Right.
But if it's still cold where you are, then you can still do the pickling.
Perfect.
Or adding the raw garlic and cloves.
Perfect. That's great tips. Love it. I love it. Yeah, and just beets overall are wonderful. Just a wonderful food to have in your diet. And as we always say in Ayurveda, when you see these things in the market, eat them, because nature is giving them to us right now for a reason.
Yeah, and really beets, they're a pretty safe choice no matter what the season. They're not going to steer you too wrong, right? Where they're not an intense food in any way, but especially when you see them in the market, or sometimes I'm walking in the grocery store and I look at something and it almost has a halo around it. You've had this, Colette, happen to you?
Yeah, well, you could just feel in your stomach. You can feel when you're like, I want that, or you pick something up and all of a sudden you hear this like in your stomach, like, okay, that's not for me. It's funny how you get sensitive to these foods. Yeah.
Make sure part of an Ayurveda lifestyle is going to the grocery at least once a week. Don't let anyone do all your grocery shopping for you.
No.
If you have that luxury where you're someone else is doing the grocery shopping in your house, make sure you're still getting to the grocery store once a week. It's entertainment.
Right.
You can go to the movies, or you can go to the grocery store or the farmer's market and see all the beautiful, wonderful things that are coming out.
Yeah.
And if you pass by something that seems to have the halo effect, or you feel it deep down in your bones that this should be something wonderful for you, go with that. Let your body do the talking when it comes to that, and just try it out.
Right.
And chances are you're gonna feel like you're eating something heavenly, and it's gonna be great for you and make you feel great too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, especially going to the farmers markets, you're not only buying the local food and seasonal, but also it's, community thing. And you just get so inspired because you see these beautiful vegetables and fruits. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's like a great family outing too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is a great family outing. Like I said, it's entertainment.
Yeah.
You think of it as like, you're going out to the movies or whatever. You go to the theater and then the farmer's market and then,
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I know, everywhere in California, the farmer's markets are amazing. You get amazed. Everyone go there for their brunch, bring the kids, do your shopping, get some great food there. Here in France too, it's just a beautiful feeling. You just feel a real part of the community when you go to your farmers markets.
What a great way to live. What a great lifestyle.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely. Wonderful. On that note, thank you, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
This is just so informative. I love these chats, and hopefully for you guys listening out there that it is inspiring, and John is certainly passionate about it. And we would like you to try the pickled beets. If you're going in springtime now, and then in the Northern Hemisphere, you could try the sesame seed treats. The links will be in the show notes for the Joyful Belly site. And then on that page, you'll also get to see all the detail of all the ingredients and what the effects on the body. So you'll get like a little revision on the Joyful Belly site about the taste and the effect and what doshas is good for and so on. So John, thank you so much.
Oh yeah. It's always wonderful, to have have a chance to have this conversation, talk about the foods with your listeners and also with you. So thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And we will chat again soon.
Yes. Sounds great.
Take care, John. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
So there you go. Some great information there from John Immel of Joyful Belly. Wonderful resource on all things nutrition. And be sure to check out those recipes. The links are in the show notes, the recipes to the pickled beets and also to the sesame treats. And if you can't access them in the show notes, you can always just go directly to my website, which is elementshealingandwellbeing.com. And then click on the podcast tab and you'll find this episode right there, episode number 51. Thank you again for listening, for your support. And please don't forget to join us over at the Elements of Ayurveda podcast Facebook group, where we support each other. You get to ask questions and I give you info along the way in between episodes. Also, don't forget about the Daily Habits for a Holistic Health course that's starting October 27th. In the group format, or you can do it privately throughout the year. This will be a great benefit to you when you're building up a foundation of healthy self-care practices to keep you in balance physically and mentally. Take care, everyone. I look forward to connecting with you soon, and be well.